This is downtown Philadelphia. Oftentimes when you look at a city this large, you do not think about Native American culture, and you do not think about individuals who are of the Native American nations having a strong effect. A lot of times in history, it's not talked about. However, on this channel, we talk about different cultures, different nations, different races in the history, as well as how they played a role in the United States, in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, but also worldwide. My name is John Hemphill, and welcome to my channel. In an earlier episode, we talked about the Lenape Nation and how they existed in what's now Philadelphia. We talked about how their families were made up, how they survived, and generally the influences that they had in the region. Today, we're going to actually talk about the paths, trails, and road networks that went throughout the United States and how that eventually would play a role in the early United States when it comes to the colonial period and even in the independence period. If you look at a map of Philadelphia, you'll see a grid. A lot of the streets look straight. However, you'll see streets that don't exactly fit the grid. And the reason why is because these are Native American paths. I'll just name a few for you. You have Baltimore Avenue. You have Passyunk Avenue. You have Moyamensing Avenue. You have Frankfort Avenue, Lancaster Avenue, Ridge Avenue. You may have some parts of Old York Road, actually most of Old York Road, Bustleton Avenue, Oxford Avenue, Waikato Avenue, and the list goes on, like say Haverford Avenue. Many of these streets are actually ancient networks, old paths where people traveled, where people traded, and a lot of times the trade went on for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles. For example, what's now Frankfort Avenue, as well as Old York Road, were used by the Lenape to trade as far away as Shamokin, upstate New York, what's now New York City, and even beyond. Areas like Moyamensing Avenue, Passyunk Avenue, even Grace Ferry Avenue, were areas where the Lenape traded as far south as Virginia, Maryland, the Potomac, what's now the area of Washington, D.C., and you can even trade as far south as the Carolinas. The different tribes at that time were the Lenape being here in Philadelphia, and then further south you had the Algonquin, and then even further south you had the Cherokee. So you had trade literally going from the Lenape to the Algonquin to the Cherokee, and in some cases the Catawba and the Seminole. Further west, what's now Haverford Avenue, Lancaster Avenue, some parts of Lancaster Avenue, you had paths that were actually known as the Conestoga Path, the Great Warrior Path. And trade would go on as far as what's now Harrisburg, which was Paxton, Conestoga, areas of the Susquehanna Valley, which are literally in the middle of the state. When you went west of the river, the Susquehanna River that is, you could actually go as far as Carlisle, Frankstown, and even trade as far west as the Ohio Valley, going into what's now the state of Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana. In some cases, even as far away as Illinois. Friends, oftentimes these things are not talked about when it comes to American history. But in the months and in the years coming, you're going to hear a lot about American history as well as what's going on with current events to this day. And these things need to be mentioned, remembered, and they also enhance life as we live it today and the lives of our children in the future to come. In closing, as we prepare for future episodes, there's one more thing to think about. As I look over Philadelphia, This is one of the largest cities in North America. One of the largest cities in the United States, obviously. And actually one of the largest and wealthiest cities in the world. As time went on, the Lenape would be confronted with a host of people. Colonists. Oftentimes we think about the British colonies and the 13 colonies that rebelled against Great Britain. But it's also important to remember that there were several people that came into the area. As far back as 1526, there were stories of the Spanish sailing into Delaware Bay. Eventually, the Dutch came around 1623. The English came but didn't stay. The Swedes came in 1638. And then even later, you saw the British. Further west in Pennsylvania, you actually had the French that came into the area as well. But they didn't come to Philadelphia. They were mostly to the west. This is a very multicultural history. And even though you had empires that were fighting against each other and people fighting against each other, it's a history that we all share today. It's a history that makes us all richer, more vibrant. And our children will be the benefactors of what we share, what we value, what we hold on to, as well as what we pass on to them. Until next time, thanks.